Today, we get to see an officer need a 1.1 second draw to first shot to save her own life. Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. Every day of the year, we post an analysis of a real-life use of force caught on camera so that your training and practice can be more research-informed. I'm your host, John Correa.
I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from Deerfield Township, Ohio. Nailed it. I think I remember that one, but I remembered it. So
Well done.
Can I get a raise?
No.
Okay.
Magtech is the only Freedom Seed I use on the range. I personally have over 100,000 rounds downrange of Magtech, and it's unbelievably reliable, very accurate, and a great value. Pick some up for your next range trip wherever you shop for range supplies.
The person who is in the home whose doorbell cam we're looking at has called a dispatch and asked for a wellness check. So 3 officers have responded. For about 2 minutes, they have tried to make contact. They know that he's inside. They've heard him inside. Everything's about to go a little bit south here when he comes to the door. We have audio from the doorbell camera. Let's listen in.
What do you say? 4-8. See if she'll give you the garage code if she wants us to check on him. Here it comes. Here he is. Here he is.
It's your hands!
Show us your hands! Show us your hands! Show us your hands! Show us your hands!
Guns by the front door.
Show us your hands! Show us your hands! Hey,
Sarah, you good?
I'm good. I think I'm good.
Move back! Step back!
Back up, we'll handle it.
Okay.
Make sure to go and read the news stories that I've linked in the description on this one. This guy lived through this. He missed the officer, that female officer, by just an inch or so. She shot him multiple times. He did live through that, and he ended up pleading guilty to a whole bunch of charges and is serving 17 to 23 and a half years for his crimes. He actually thanked the officers for saving his life afterwards. They came in and did emergency first aid on him. And part of the news story says that this was an ambush crime, that when he saw that it was officers, he looked at his Ring doorbell camera and said, "You're dead." And they got that on a different video that we weren't released to the public, but it was shown in court. So this one wasn't a mistaken identity. This guy did this on purpose. Hey everyone, if you would like to participate, we have started a GoFundMe to buy Mike some beard growth oil, so then that way he can have a beard that's all the way down to the middle of his belly. If you'd like to donate, it'll get there in no time flat. And no, I'm only joking. I'm just giving my friend a hard time about his beard.
Gets too long, it starts to touch the microphone and gets weird. So.
You know, these wellness checks are so unpredictable because they can go like, you know, oh yeah, you guys are probably right. I'm glad my sister called it in and I probably need to go get checked out. They can go like, you know, I don't want to get checked out. I'm not coming to the door. Y'all take a long walk off a short pier. Or they can go like this. This is one of the most highly unpredictable calls there is.
Yeah, if you're on the app, by the way, thank you, first of all. And second of all, we did a first watch of this video over there. We go into a lot more detail. But what John just said is 100% true. I don't claim to be an expert in wellness checks. I did a very small handful of them in my career. Most of my career was as a federal agent. We don't do that sort of thing, generally speaking. With that said, there's a lot of moving parts to a wellness check. If the person comes to the door and goes, yeah, I'll go get help with you, great. If they're inside the house and they're saying, get out of here, there's not much you can do unless you can actually independently verify there's a threat. They're actually threatening themselves. They're cutting themselves or they're doing something to harm themselves. Then you can force entry. So the legal aspect of it is a big deal. So there's a lot. My bottom line is there's a lot of moving parts with this sort of thing. It's not as black and white as you might think.
I also want to pay attention to where our female officer has placed herself, okay? So we're going to see that. It'll move forward. Sorry for the banner at the bottom. I couldn't get away from that. but I want you to recognize that she's got this tiny little front porch. And normally you'd say, wait a minute, on a wellness check, wouldn't you just walk up to the door and knock? No, man, cops are taught not to just stand in the middle of a doorway, and for good reason, because they get shot through the door when they do that kind of stuff. So Moving over to the side makes a lot of sense. However, in this case, it's really hard to say, because one of the things that you see is she's got this little narrow porch and then a little step and then down into the snow, but she's got this little ridge that makes it an odd place for her to hang out here, and a place where she doesn't really have any retreat. And I think the lesson there, Mike, is that sometimes it's not going to go like it did in your shoot house class where it's a real easy door. Sometimes you got a real complicated geometry and you just got to make the best of a bad situation.
This is one of the training points that we actually have evolved from our first watch, right, until now. John pointed this stuff out. Look, it wasn't like it was a level surface. It's snow. There's a big difference in height. There's not a lot of good options. And sometimes there's that poop sandwich that you just have to take a giant bite of it. I think he's right. I think John's correct here. There's not a lot of great options. She could have stood down in the snow behind the secondary, sort of where her midline is now, behind that wall. That might have put her more behind the 8 ball than where she was. It's really tough to say, but just understand, if you're watching this in law enforcement, remember this. This is your mental rep, right? I may find this situation. I need to think hard about where I'm going to stand before I ring the doorbell or knock on the door. I want to consider, okay, just like when you pull up to a house, before you walk in, you're like, okay, I got a fire hydrant, I got an oak tree, I got a shed, where's my cover, where's my concealment? Another thing is, when you get to the door, what am I going to do if bullets start coming through this door, or the door opens and someone starts shooting at me? Where can I go? Am I pinning myself in, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's one of the big mental reps from this video if you're training in law enforcement.
And, doing this a few times gives you enough mental reps that you can do that stuff very, very quickly, so you can get back to the problem at hand, which is trying to help the person inside and make sure that they're okay. Because that's what the officers are here for. They're literally doing a community caretaking function here and trying their very best in order to help somebody. But that guy decided to choose violence this day. And remember, the perp gets a huge vote. Now, I know plenty of people are going to say here, well, wait a minute, you have the right to show up at the door, and you have the right to be armed in your home, you have the right to have a gun. But none of that matters in this case. This guy wanted to kill a cop. He said, you're dead on, again, the video, that portion that wasn't released to us. Sat and watched the doorbell camera for a couple of minutes to determine what he was going to do, and then comes out, sticks the gun out, and goes to work. So, obviously here he is intent on probably dying by a police officer here, but he's going to take one of them if he can. And our female officer is the closest one. And boy, you better be fast out of the holster when that stuff goes down. And she's got to really flip the switch here, Mike.
Yeah, the gear shift between I'm here to hopefully help someone and prevent them from doing some self-harm to, oh crap, he's trying to kill me. I just had a bullet whiz past my face. And now I've got to change gears into, I need to get lead out of my gun as quickly as possible, because I've been shot at. What's going through your mind is crap. Like you're waiting for that next shot, the one that first one didn't hit you, you're waiting for that next one to hear it and then feel it, right? So the amount of overdrive your brain is in, the amount of cognitive overload that occurs in a situation like this is really dramatic. And so we're going to talk about other things in here in a little bit about like the flashlight and holding it and not activating your weapon-mounted light. Those things are all important. But man, there are times when this stuff's happening so very quickly, and I've got to answer this threat immediately, like less than a second from now. And I feel like she still did a very commendable job throughout.
Completely agree that she did a really commendable job. I also want to note here, here's where the stimulus shows up, that this guy starts, showing a gun, and he's going to start turning that gun towards our officer. I want you to recognize, it takes a second here. This is Colonel Boyd's OODA loop at work here, right? You have to observe it and then orient to the problem before you can decide what to do and then act on those problems. So it takes some processing time, and that's just human psychology. It's not like we can make instantaneous decisions. It takes time to process what is happening. And you know what she does, and she does a really good job of it here, is you watch him turn the gun towards her, and she makes that flinch away from it and actually brings her light up and shines it at him, and that shot breaks and probably misses her by an inch, by maybe 2 inches maximum. And I've had an angry bee go by my ear, a bullet go by me about a couple of feet away. That was in a hunting/target shooting accident that thankfully nobody got shot in a few years ago. And a couple feet by me was scary as all get out. I can only imagine, Mike, what it's like an inch away from your face.
Yeah, so she was this close to a processional of police cars and fire trucks and raised banners and black bands over the badges of everyone in the state or the county.
An overpass named over her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the whoever her name is, the Memorial Overpass, the Memorial Park or whatever. I don't want any memorials named after me. I don't want any streets named after me or any overpasses or anything else for that matter. And I think she had the mindset. I think mindset is probably the most important aspect of her performances. She's like, oh, you're going to shoot at me? I got something for that. She got that light up and got her gun out remarkably fast. But as we're going to see here, there's a slight problem when the gun first comes out, and John's going to talk about that now.
Yeah, now listen, this is going to be the smallest of critiques. I just want to show it to you because it's what was caught on camera. It's what really happened, all right? Because she's going to go and get that gun out and get it out in 1.12 in a shot on target. Before the shot on target shows up, though, watch what happens here as she pulls the gun and then she streaks one off into the ground, okay? So she does get her trigger finger on the trigger early, and I do think this is why we really, in Myelinate, really rep that idea of prepping the trigger once the muzzle has come out. Tiny minor thing. She is panicking. There's no question that she is under panic. Any human being would. And I'm not going to give her a hard time about that. It went into the rocks, into the porch there. No harm, no foul. Wasn't pointed at her. Okay, fine. It's just something worth noting as something to really rep, prepping the trigger once the muzzle is oriented towards the target.
I don't think any amount of stress inoculation can prepare your, what's the part of the brain that reacts immediately, John? What do they call it? The
medulla oblongata.
Yeah, that's the one. Sounds like a bad album by the Police back in the 80s. No amount of stress inoculation in training, I should say. Maybe if you've been in combat or been in a shooting before, maybe that might prepare you for this. But aside from that, no amount of training can really 100% prepare your brain for, I almost ate a round of whatever that is, 38 or 9mm in my face, like right this second. And I've got to react to that in a microsecond and get my gun up and working. As I said earlier, the response to being shot at is, your brain's going a mile a minute. You're like, I need to respond to this right now. And I think that's probably just what happened, right? Is she's like, okay, I'm going to get my gun as quickly as I can. That round went off into the ground. That is the least negligent discharge I've ever seen, in my opinion, John.
Yeah, I'm not going to give her much hard time about it. And then that gun comes out and she gets a shot into the target from the time that she started her movement, or a quarter second before. That's where I time things from because of the motor movement time. 1.12 seconds it takes her from the time that she initiates movement to the time that her first shot breaks. And that, out of a retention holster, is a commendable level of speed. That does tell me that she has worked some to be able to get out of the holster, because you don't get better at that stuff when the feces hits the oscillator, as it were. Then that tends to degrade your performance, not enhance it. So a 1.12 draw to first hit, I ask you this, does speed matter? The answer to that is unequivocally yes, but it's not the first one to get a shot off. Notice he got the shot off first. It's the first one to get an anatomically significant hit. And she got the first anatomically significant hit that made him stop shooting at her and won her this fight.
Yes, let's talk about the one-handed shooting. Some people are probably going to wonder what we think about that. My immediate thought watching this was, I'm not sure that she had time. I mean, look, there's almost always time to get a two-handed grip, right? But again, her brain's going a mile a second. She's like, I got to get rounds in this guy right now. Am I going to try to bring my other hand up in front of me and do this sort of wonky around the corner shooting? Because I think he was a bit behind the door frame when this first shot went off. I think she's thinking one hand, if she even thought about it, right? One hand's the way to go, at least for the first couple of rounds, because just getting that other hand up there, A, would be difficult. B, might hinder her ability to get that gun muzzle aimed in the right direction she wants it in to get that anatomically significant hit that John was talking about.
Yeah, practicing some single-handed shooting. This is why cops should do it. Sometimes it's the right answer, and she needed to in this case. Now, I would like her at some point to drop that handheld light and get her pistol-mounted light in the fight. She's holding on to that handheld light. It's working for her. She got hits with her single hand. I got no problems with it. But you do notice she does have a pistol-mounted light. Most officers who carry a pistol-mounted light, and I think every officer should, don't train with it very much. Even those who work the night shift don't train with their pistol-mounted light very much. So I'd really encourage you to get a little training there, because dropping that flashlight, getting your pistol-mounted light on, and getting two hands on the gun for any subsequent rounds, I think would have been smart. But again, tiniest suggestion here. You're talking about, oh, okay, madam, you got a 98.7% on this, okay, which is an A+. And don't hear me saying you didn't do a great job, because you did. But if you carry a pistol-mounted light, and of course, if you're a private citizen and you put a light on your pistol, I mean, it's a free country. You do whatever you want. I've never seen one come into play in an outside the home defensive gun use, but whatever, train with it. Train how to get that light on and to use it effectively and use the spill and use the throw, so then that way you know where it is. I also want to notice our other officers who come in as backup, they end up using theirs okay, though I'm going to say here my critique for them is I wish they started giving each other jobs. Not everybody yelling at the bad guy, but somebody taking scene command, somebody being in charge of communication with the station, somebody being in charge of making sure that our officer who's just been in a gunfight is okay. Start doling out jobs and do something so we're not duplicating effort.
So let's say that all these cops on this call, I can't remember if they're deputies or not, all these deputies or officers on this call are all equal rank, right? They're all police officer twos, let's say. They got a little time under their belt. If you are the police officer two, standing to the left, and this has just gone down and there's a lull in the fight and no one is taking charge, guess what? You're in charge, right? So you take them out, hey, Johnson, go here. Hey, Ralph, go there. Sally, you get back beyond there. You just almost got shot in the face, right? I want you out of this, preferably at this point. You're going to be in charge, because if you don't take charge, nobody will. And nobody kind of took charge here. Again, not the biggest critique in the world, but I think it's important that you communicate between partners, and that sometimes can be something we don't practice enough in training. Practice this, especially in your low light training. Cops know this, but the vast majority of violent crime happens under the cover of darkness. It happens at night, right? That's when people have been drinking and drugging and doing all this crazy stuff. So your light abilities, your training with a light, you're going to have to do more than your agency is going to give you, right? They're probably going to give you once a quarter, a couple of hours of really monotonous, boring training. I would say have some low light where you do your dry fire, practice it that way as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart decision and a really good advice that Mike just gave you. One final thing, our officer decided to go in, and he decided, you know what, I'm going in, I'm going to disarm this guy, and then we'll take control of the scene from there. That's a judgment call in the moment. Certainly we don't get to see what's on the other side of the door, so I'm not criticizing him for that at all. Just remember that, hey, if this guy just shot at you, it is okay to surround and call out. It is okay to back way up and get on the horn and get a whole bunch of reinforcements there before you decide to move in and endanger yourself fully, even more. You are taking your own life into your own hands, and he felt like he had to do that, did a good job of it, and saved the man inside's life. He even thanked them for saving his life after this shooting, because even 23 years in prison is better than being dead, and he recognized that, and they got him through his bad moment. I'd say this female officer deputy, I think she did a good job. In fact, I'm going to nominate her for the Special Pants Brigade. So if you know this officer, you can get her in touch with us. We would love to send her a Special Pants Brigade patch, because she absolutely covered her ass.